In this video, I take you through a discussion and mini podcast I shot with one of our previous clients, Matt McKeever. Matt is a CPA by trade who became fascinated and obsessed with real estate investing. And by the age of 31, he was able to quit his full-time job and essentially retire from his investments, which allowed him to focus on entrepreneurship and real estate investing full-time. We happened to meet at a local networking group in 2016 that I was vlogging at for my own YouTube channel. And this was right before he started up his own YouTube channel. So this discussion is a little bit different than some of my other clients that you may have seen because our relationship together was definitely a catalyst for who I've become as a person. And I can most certainly say that I wouldn't be where I am today and wouldn't have created Social Mediation without him and everything we've been through and created together. After meeting Matt in 2016, we worked on some passion projects together, which led to working full-time with him and his business partner, Jeff Weibo, in 2018, where I helped them create content, manage their YouTube channels and social media accounts, as well as helping them host meetups, events, and conferences across Ontario. Over the years, we've traveled across Ontario and Canada, interviewing dozens, if not hundreds, of real estate investors and entrepreneurs highlighting their real estate portfolios. In 2019, I actually moved into a house with Matt and a bunch of other young real estate entrepreneurs where we converted the living room into a YouTube studio and event space. And in 2020, we even had the goal of creating and posting a video every single day on his YouTube channel, which was only supposed to be about for a year, but we continued that on for over 500 days. If you're interested in working with us here at Social Mediation, I think this discussion is great because it covers everything from how investing in social media established Matt as one of, if not the top credible authorities in the Canadian real estate investing space, and helped him develop a community and fan base that allowed and continues to allow him to compress time and grow his businesses exponentially by providing him connections, leads, and opportunities that would have never come about without it. We cover how, through the content we created together for his social media, was able to connect and impact the lives of Canadians on such a scale that he claims it may be some of his biggest life work yet and the most important work he's ever done. And how he feels the level of experience and familiarity we have here at Social Mediation is irreplaceable, and how there are only a handful of people in North America who are capable of doing what we are doing, and he doesn't know of anyone else in Canada who can do what we do. It's truly an honor to have worked with and be great friends with Matt and to have been part of the impact he has had on this world. So I hope you enjoy this discussion with Matt McKeever. What is going on, everyone? So I am here today with Matt McKeever. A lot of people know him as the GOAT of Canadian real estate, and he's got a lot of other fascinating projects that he's currently working on in the Bitcoin space. But Matt, how are you doing? How's it going?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Peter. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. We've had a pretty crazy journey together. And to be honest, I probably wouldn't be where I am today if we hadn't met. Like, I feel in many ways, although we've worked together, you've been like my boss and I was your employee as well as client. Like, our journey has gone through so many iterations, but I also feel like you're a really good friend. Like, we're maybe even best friends in some senses. And you're definitely like a mentor to me. So compared to other clients, I feel this podcast might go a little bit of a different way. But to give some people some feedback on you, would you mind telling us a bit about yourself? And we're going to take this kind of in a historical sense because you're in a different direction now compared to when we were kind of in the heat and the throw of things. But tell us a bit about yourself, your business or your previous business, and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And all your sentiments are mirrored by myself, Peter. So absolutely appreciate you as well. So for anyone that's unfamiliar with my background, CPA by trade, so a chartered accountant here in Canada, always obsessed with real estate investing. And by the age of 31, I was able to quit my full-time job and just focus on real estate investing full-time. And when I did that, my goal was always like financial freedom. And I thought that was the end all be all. But I really found myself disconnected once I'd left the corporate world. You know, you build up this identity and all that. And all of a sudden I found myself like looking for new connections, new relationships, and to like build a new community of like-minded individuals. And during that kind of journey, the way we actually kind of met and first interacted was I stumbled upon you vlogging out in the wild And it was right before I'd started my YouTube channel. And it was one of the things I had a lot of personal anxiety or concerns about, going out into the world. It's far more common now, but like you got to kind of take a time machine and go back to 2016 to understand the context of this. But essentially, the actual business I had before even getting into social media was I built up a real estate portfolio of rental properties. I'd never done a flip at that point in time, and I was just looking to expand it. And I also wanted to share my journey with friends and family that I thought oftentimes maybe didn't love the job or the positions they were in or wanted more financial security or freedom. And I had struggled to really explain to them or like illustrate to them the how easy it was if you approached it in a systematic manner to like build up a real estate portfolio. And so that's what really drew me to social media in the first place. And then from kind of meeting you, that was a giant springboard. I met a handful of really key individuals, the real estate Rat Pack. You guys can all look back on it, but whether we're talking about like Jeff Weibo, Mitt, Adam Martin, honestly, it's a cast of characters too long for me to go over all in this. So any names I skip, don't take offense here. But a ton of amazing people I was able to connect with through social media. And from that, my business just grew exponentially. Like, I don't think either of us understood what was going to come of meeting in 2016, but, kind of just picking a few cherry picked highlights there. Multiple conferences. We even hosted we bought out a hotel in Vegas, and like all the attendees there, right, were all because of the social media content we had created. We had OREC for 2 years as well. We probably would still be doing it if COVID maybe didn't throw a wrench in it initially in year 3. And so from that, it honestly feels almost overwhelming to try and explain all the things that grew out of that. But essentially, at the peak, over 100 rental units. I had, we had a full-time business and team of wholesalers. So like kind of buying and selling real estate contracts, built up Airbnb rentals, dabbled in a few flips. Obviously, we did all the meetups, all the events, the conferences. And then in addition to that, high-end coaching and courses and mentorship programs, and just it sometimes feels overwhelming when I look back on it and just think about all the different things we did and dabbled with. But to me, the real spark there was just having the attention and the awareness from others that wanted to participate and interact with us. And I really do associate a lot of that back to that fundamental year of 2016, getting outside my comfort zone, starting and doing social media, creating YouTube channels. And, you were there even before my first YouTube video dropped.
Yeah, definitely. The ripple effect that you've had on on Canada as a whole, but especially for like real estate investors, helping people to understand the concept of financial freedom, building a financial fortress of solitude, and getting that in order, and the ripple effect that has had on those people's families. And it all, as you're kind of saying, is like through the awareness and attention that you built up on your YouTube channel, and by being organic and authentic and being real on there. And I think it's just a huge testament to show that, guys, Matt could have just retired after he got his properties and done nothing with it. He could have continued to build that out and be great at that, but he invested in social media and was able to have a massive impact on people. And not just having an impact on people, but it also helped him grow his business and let him dabble with maybe a dozen other businesses.
Yeah, again, sometimes I forget. We also had a property software management business. There's honestly just so much there, right? Cash Flow Tribe and the partnership with Ben. Literally, it's just too much to mention. But a lot of that was built on that springboard, right? Of once we had some attention awareness and we had a core fandom or fan base or followers, that just gave us it both made each next endeavor easier to succeed. But also for me, a big part of it was feeling like I was given permission from people, like-minded individuals that actually, thought what I was doing was kind of cool and neat, versus maybe friends or family thought was boring or risky or whatever. And being able to find those like-minded individuals is such a powerful aspect of social media that I think a lot of people misunderstand, right? So this idea of the riches being in the niches, and we were never number one globally on YouTube. We were never top dogs even in Canadian content, but we'd found this niche in real estate and we'd carved it out and really were able to make it our own. And to this day, I still just see unfettered opportunities, right? One of the projects I'm working on right now is a audio fictional drama related to Bitcoin. Again, this like I'm confident I can say this. It's the best world-class audio drama in the world related to Bitcoin, but it's also the only one. And like that to me is just fascinating that there's still these niches today that I think are extremely important and valuable that a person can go and plant their flag.
100%. If you guys haven't checked it out, definitely go check out Mysteries of the Bitcoin Citadel with Paper Street Studios with Matt and Dan. It's a fascinating take on podcasts and drama. Like it's awesome. And definitely like Matt is always at the forefront of being like a first time mover in these spaces. And like there's a lot of stuff that Matt has not been wrong about. So I think you guys definitely need to check that out. But one aspect that you mentioned, there's like the power of social media. And I think you like exemplify that in a huge way, is the power that can come by building an audience and leveraging attention and being the trusted authority in that space and even in a specific niche. Like you don't need hundreds of thousands and millions of followers to build your business or build your brand. Like there's that 1,000 true fans, right? That kind of core sentiment there. But love all this. This is absolutely amazing, Matt. I'd love to hop into some of these questions here for you to find out how our relationship and what we've done together has affected things. So I guess kind of going back when you were, we met each other before you started your YouTube channel. And then you started and we're going hard on it by yourself for about a year and a half before I was kind of brought on to help you and also help like Jeff with his channel and then help you guys start hosting events and conferences and everything. And then it spurred into everything else. But what would you say was your biggest struggle with social media before starting to work with me?
Yeah, I think there's a few. So one was like let's call it a limiting belief that I didn't really understand the value or the logic behind social media. So it honestly feels silly now because like my view of social media is so radically different. But at the time, I thought social media was either like Facebook, where you just want to like to stay in touch with close friends and family, or it was for people that were really like egotistical and outgoing and just like busybodies. And that just I didn't feel like I was that person. And so because of that, I really had a limiting belief around social media and the potential value it had. Individuals like Gary Vee, which we've talked about a lot in the past, really allowed me to start to understand that there is more value there. And if I can go on a little tangent here, one of the like real catalyst moments for me was when I quit my day job. But before I started my YouTube channel, I started going to different like real estate meetups. And at one of those real estate meetups, I met another young guy that was getting into real estate investing. And he just bought like a single family home in the Old East Village, Tom. And so Tom essentially like showed me like a 2-minute video he just like sloppily, I'm going to say, shot on his cell phone. And in that 2-minute video, I was like, he narrated as well. But again, he wasn't really making this for social media, just to like show the guys at the table. And I watched it, I was like, man, I understand that entire property now. I was like, I've been to those properties before, but like you describing it versus me seeing it was just such a powerful thing. And I'd never really thought of myself necessarily as like a visual learner, but I realized like how powerful that visual image could be in addition to it. And then even just like the 2 minutes of personality that came through from Tom when like you're making jokes about, how terrible the interior design is or like how smoke stained the walls are, whatever the case may be. And so little moments like that really allowed me to understand that like, you know what, there really isn't that much risk here of me making some content, putting it out there, and then seeing if it connects with someone. And one of the big reasons I ultimately decided to do it was it was really hard to get started in real estate investing. It was really hard to get started in social media. It turns out anything I've ever done that was worthwhile was really hard to get started. And I wanted to try and make it easier for people to get started with real estate investing. And I thought that like the video medium and social media was the most powerful channel or avenue for me to explain and lay that stuff out. Versus like we didn't get into it, but like back in the day before I quit my day job, I'd write these really long emails to friends and family trying to explain the value of real estate investing, like 5,000 plus word emails. No one would ever respond. No one would ever read them. And because it felt overwhelming, where social media, oftentimes the perceived like cost of spending a minute to first watch that reel or that short or the TikTok, like it seems like such a small exchange that most people are willing to do it versus like, hey, read this giant essay that Matt wrote in an email.
Amazing. So, yeah, I guess looking back then, what would you say is your biggest struggle with before. So you were going hard on your YouTube channel, and then you brought me in there to kind of help with stuff. What was the struggles before, like the editing side, the recording side? Any insights there?
Yeah, so I think ultimately it just came down to where I wanted to spend my time, right? And I was really enjoying being the entrepreneur, the business builder, but also saw the extreme value in building a following and social media presence. And so to me, it was just an investment. And at that point in time, by the time we kind of formalized our partnership or whatever, I was all in on social media, right? Like I was doing daily live streams on Instagram. We were trying to do daily uploads on YouTube because I just saw it. I don't know if I can properly explain it. I still think it's present today, but like I was just so in it in the moment. I was just like, this is just all deep blue ocean here. Like no one's claiming any of this, right? Like the only thing that existed at the time was Bigger Pockets. And to me, I was like, Bigger Pockets was this amazing website, great podcast, tons of information, but still they had no visual presence at the time. And the only real examples of real estate investors and stuff was HGTV, which was really that simulacrum of reality TV versus like being truly authentic. And for me, I wanted to try and share as much as possible. And so, like tapping you and building out a social media team, that to me was going to really allow us to capture more attention, create more awareness, and all that good stuff. And one thing that I think a lot of people that, with hindsight probably don't realize is like, I was like losing a lot of money initially on social media, but to me, it was truly just an investment. I was just building a strong foundation. And like the great thing is that social media content was working 24/7. So even when I wasn't on a live stream, that content could still be out there, like working on my behalf, right? Every view, every interaction, every engagement was a real human being interested in my content, learning more about me, learning more about my business, and potentially either growing to be a follower or a customer, or oftentimes both, right? And from social media, like the amount of business leads, opportunities related to real estate investing, like the giant list of businesses and different projects we've already talked about, like none of those would have came to be, or the timeline on them. Honestly, like I think social media probably compressed time for me in a manner that very few other things in my life have ever done. So like that, being able to increase the iterations around things is a really important thing, I think, in like entrepreneurial success. And again, social media was just such a catalyst for a lot of that.
100%. Where do you think you would have been if you didn't invest in social media?
This could go a few directions. To be honest, I think that realistically, had I not invested in social media, I don't think I would have done the meetup groups. I don't think that I would have built up like the different real estate businesses or empire or whatever you want to call it. And ultimately, I think I probably would have just continued to kind of be a discreet lead and fire guy. Nothing wrong with that, but I do think that it would have been realistically less personally satisfying. I wouldn't have this giant community that I have now. Like there's still people that were kind of like day one followers that still interact with me, right? Like I no longer have like my mailing address public, but we used to get like fan letters and postcards all the time, little gifts and trinkets and all these really meaningful things. And like to be able to connect and impact so many lives, to me, honestly, you can't put a value on that. Like I I suspect, I don't think my life's over yet, but I suspect that some of those interactions and some of the impact I was able to create through social media may be some of my life's work, right? Like it may be some of the most important things I did, because I personally do believe that I know that there's individuals and families that are better off financially, that are in more stable positions, that are able to like live in better alignment with their dreams and their core values because of some of the education that they were able to garner from our content. And that to me is just like such a cool superpower to have. And social media was really the bedrock of that superpower.
Yeah, 100%. And I can even say, as I mentioned from the beginning of this, like the ripple effect we've managed to have on the Canadian real estate like industry and market and the people that affects is massive. But even for like myself and my YouTube channel, like I'll get a comment of someone from like, man, I was watching your stuff like 3 years ago and it helped me start intermittent fasting and it's drastically changed my life. And it's like, I'm always going to be like in the back of that person's mind in some way. So whether it's like 3 years from now or 5 years from now or 10 years from now, I want to go do that's the moment I want to turn something on or do something in a different way. I feel like those people are always going to think of you in that sense because you actually had like an impact on them and their journey versus, a lot of social media nowadays too, compared to when we were creating is just like swipe, 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 swipe. Like you don't even remember half those people
Well,
versus like taking them to YouTube now,
yeah.
I think is like a whole strategy. But back then that wasn't even like a strategy, just like, how can we take advantage of this blue ocean as much as possible, just create as much content to reach as many people. But yeah, sorry, you were going to mention something there.
Yeah, and one thing I just wanted to hit on there is like there's all sorts of content strategies, and I'm not saying one's better than the other, but for myself, creating those long form content, right, building what I kind of consider to be like relationship or authentic content was really something that had I not done it, like I don't think I'd understand it even today, right? Like had I not gone through that journey, I don't think I'd really appreciate the value that's there. So I think that like circling back to one of your earlier questions, like that was a huge limiting belief of like, is this worth my time, right? As an entrepreneur, like I've got this successful business. Should I really like split my attention and time? And ultimately that's what led towards wanting to outsource a huge chunk of that, right? And like bring you on and build out an entire team around social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's very easy to get tricked by oh man, these people are getting millions of views and they're getting massive attention and look at all the engagement, but that doesn't always turn into either business or again having an impact on them. And
Yeah.
a lot of what I've seen from like working with you and even working with some of our other clients here at Social Mediation is like sometimes those other videos that don't get a lot of views are the ones that have the most impact for those people. And those are the ones that are actually like converting in the long run. And it still might even take someone 3 months, 6 months, a year until they become like a customer or do something with them. And we've even had that instance, right? Where, people have been watching for years and then they finally come out to a conference or an event and they're like, you know, they've built such a relationship with you through that, and
Mm-hmm.
then they get to meet you, and then like a relationship actually gets born from that, right? But yeah, it's fascinating what social media can do.
100%.
So yeah, last question here that I love to go over. What would you say to someone who's on the fence about working with me or working with Social Mediation?
Yeah. So I'm going to be biased here, guys, but I literally think Peter's the best in Canada. So we've had previous conversations about this, Peter, and different projects and relationships. But I really do think that the level of experience and familiarity you have is just, it's irreplaceable. Like, honestly, there's only a handful of people in North America that I think are capable of doing what you're doing. And I don't know of anyone else in Canada. So that's kind of first things first. But secondly, I think that person really needs to ask themselves, do they want to be a thought leader, right? Do they want to impact lives? Do they want to grow their business? Because those are really the factors that I think social mediation is presenting or offering to them, right? You're an expert at what you do, and you're essentially helping people build the stage or get them the attention so that they can share their expertise with those that are interested. And I think that a lot of people have this limiting belief that like social media has to be pure flash. And if you're going only off of impressions, you probably are right. But if you're actually trying to build a business, if you're building relationships, if you want to position yourself as the number one blank in Windsor, Ontario, or the number one blank in Thunder Bay, like that's a completely different ball game than trying to just go ultra viral. And you need to understand that that's a much more patient and methodical process. But if you're in your business for the long term, right? Like if you plan on doing what you're doing today, 5 years or 10 years from now, 5 or 10 years from now, you're going to like be so thankful that you've done anything on social media, let alone like made a major commitment and investment. And I think that that's really what separates the people that like are hoping that things work out and the people that are going to like take control and make sure they work out. The same way that I still think in-person meetups are fantastic and stuff like that as well. But I think that you can't just do that because a lot of people, especially in the modern era, like they're less willing to go out and invest that time versus consume passively, right? And just this opportunity, whether it's a podcast, a YouTube channel, shorts that are telling a story over a series of shorts, you can build these deep relationships. And ultimately, in order to like build a fulfilling relationship with your customers, that's the type of relationship that you want to develop, right? Where there's real trust and understanding. There's something really powerful about having a customer come up to you already ready to buy and you've never interacted with them one-on-one once, right? Like, as in they've just passively been consuming and they've got themselves to a tipping point. And I think that that's really true of any business. So a good friend of mine, we've regularly talked about his business, and his business is in like the printing industry. And so it doesn't feel really flashy. And literally since 2016, I've been telling them, you guys should start a podcast for businesses that are in the printing industry. And they haven't. I think to their detriment, personally. He knows that already, though, so I'm not throwing shade. But I literally, I don't care what your business is, right? Like, I've seen like junk removal companies that are able to both go viral, but also build deep relationships. Because you might think like, does it really matter what junk removal company I hire in order to like do it? And it's like, well, yeah, it sort of does, right? Like, it does if you care about like your laneway or your lawn or what your neighbors think of you, right? Or it does if you want to like trust them to not like break into your house during the day when you leave and just like leave it open for them to move your shit. And there's all these different ways that people are able to build relationships. And ultimately, it's much more satisfying to be buying from a person versus like buying like a commodity, right? So again, like, do you want to just be another blank or do you want to be the blank? And I really think that that's a mentality shift. But anyone that really wants to like put their business on steroids to really reap the greatest benefits, like, you need to make that sort of long-term investment.
Wow, Matt, beautifully said. I don't know how else I could I could even riff on that, because that was I think you nailed exactly the purpose and the point and the power of social media there with that answer, as well as everything else we discussed here. So I really appreciate you and your time and everything we've done together.
Absolutely.
My mind's enthralled with our whole journey after having this podcast and discussing everything we've done and the impact we've had on people. So just want to say thank you very much for joining here today and for coming on. And if you guys aren't following, we'll have Matt's contact info and everything down below. Mysteries of the Bitcoin Citadel, as many of the different social media and podcasts and channels that we've done together that I can recall. And make sure to go follow and subscribe and sign up and follow everything that Matt's done and currently doing.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Matt.